Welcome, everybody, to the Utah Hustlers Podcast, a podcast on how to build your business to $10,000 a month. My name is Skylar Beitendorp, and it's my mission to help you achieve success, happiness, and freedom. And I do that by bringing amazing guests into the studio to talk on the podcast. So I'm going to let our guest today introduce who she is and what she does.
Hello, my name is Taylor Proctor, and I am a business coach dedicated to helping you get good at business so you can get back into why you got into business in the first place.
Which is the name of your podcast, or was it Get Good at Business?
Get Good at Business, yes.
Yeah, love that. And you're kind of a jack of all trades, or I saw a post you made that you're saying like, you used to feel bad for being a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So growing up, I had a lot of things that I did, right? And I very regularly felt like, especially in high school, I had a lot of things I was good at, but nothing I was deep at. So when you're in high school and everybody's applying for colleges and scholarships and things like that, like you had the person who had played the cello since they were 5 and had private lessons and were going to get a scholarship doing that. And you had the athlete who all they did every single day was practice pitching the softball, right? And you had all these people who were very deep in what they knew. And then you had someone like me who knew a lot of things and was excellent at a lot of things, but I kind of felt like I was a jack of all trades, master of none. Mm-hmm. And as I've grown into business and my career, I've had similar things. I like to be involved in different things. I like to know enough to be dangerous, which I think has actually turned into a massive benefit for me because I know enough to be dangerous on so many levels that if someone wants to come and work with me and be a partner in my business, I can usually see right through if they know what they're talking about or not. Because I'm like, I know enough to be dangerous, and if I wanted to go deeper, I absolutely could. And so over time, I used to be worried about that. I used to think that I didn't have the depth, but actually it has allowed me to not only help myself get good at business, but help numerous business owners get good at business because there's so many facets. And I don't think you should have to hire a coach for every single facet of business or struggle through every single facet of business and have to worry about all of that. I believe you should be able to get good at business as a whole so that you can get back into the heart of why you got into business in the first place. Whether that's freedom, whether that's more money, that's time with your family, offering transformation and solutions to your clients, right? Whatever it is that you got into business for in the first place. By being a jack of all trades, I've been able to help business owners be able to get good at the business part so they can get back into the heart of why they began.
Yeah, I always took pride in being a jack of all trades, like as I was, just growing up in high school. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of started to feel not so okay with that because then I started to see all these people that were experts in one thing and they made way more money than me.
Yeah.
But I really have found a lot of value in knowing enough about those areas to be dangerous.
Yep.
I really like that. Because then you can see through people, like if they really know what they're talking about or not. Because if they know more than you, then they know what they're talking about.
Right.
But if they don't know as much as you, then you don't want to hire them. You don't want to work with them.
Exactly. You want to work with the experts. And if you're more of an expert than they are, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And the full quote of that is, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of none.
Exactly.
So it's you kind of want to be good at a lot of things, but I think ultimately really good at one thing in general. Yeah. Would you agree?
I agree, but I agree with a caveat. Because as business owners, as entrepreneurs, there's that one thing that we are good at that we're offering solutions for, right? Yeah. That's the thing that we are good at and we're helping other people with, whether it's product or service. To be a business owner, you've got to not only have that one very, very strong skill set, you also have to have the skill set of knowing how to do your finances, knowing how to do your marketing, how to conduct sales, how to go out and network, how to take the massive amounts of business acumen and learn within that while still focusing on that core key strength. So I think it's a combination because there's so many people out there that are incredible at what they do, but aren't getting the traction because they don't have the knowledge to actually grow it as a business. Mm-hmm. So I think the jack of all trades thing is crucial as entrepreneurs. Like we're wearing multiple hats. We've got to be able to dive in and get the work done, but also sticking strong to this is why I'm here and this is what I do through my business. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the difference of you've got to be a jack of all trades, but you can have a core strength that you continue to lean into and to hone because that's the thing that you're offering through your business to your clients.
Yeah, especially when someone's starting a business and building it up, there's a good chance that they don't have the funds to hire other people who are experts at that. So you do have to be a jack of all trades for a time at least, just so you can build it to the point where you can hire someone else that will do it better than you.
I think it's important to note though, like as entrepreneurs, and especially when we're first starting out, we kind of get pushed with the, well, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And it's
I hate the word should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't shit on yourself.
Exactly. And so it's like this, it's actually really funny. I lead a mastermind, and in my mastermind today, we were doing visioning for the upcoming year. And I said, okay, write out your vision. And we did several prompts and questions and things like that. And then the next section was, okay, what in that vision did you put in there because you thought you should?
Yeah.
Right? Like pull that out, because that's immediately going to have the activity on your vision of, oh gosh, I've got to do that, versus I'm excited and I want to do that. I was working with a client recently, and they were like, I have a goal. I want to work on social media. I want to be consistent. I need to create more content, but I actually just hate social media. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about your goals. And she's like, I just need 20 clients a year at a certain price point. And she goes, and that's what I want for my business. I'm like, perfect. You do know that there's entire businesses and companies who make connections and network and build their business off of relationships and get clients through that with barely any presence on social media. So if you hate it, instead of trying to force that to be the thing because everybody tells you that's the thing, let's build those relationships, get on the ground, talk to the people that you want to work with, get them as clients. And the bonus of that is that the messaging, the issues that they're having, all of those pieces, you can then apply to a social media strategy that makes it easy and still genuine without the hate attached to it, and still grow your business without having to stress about, I'm supposed to be a social media expert on top of all of this.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we were talking about the shoulds, it was like, pull the shoulds out and really look at like, what do you need to do in your business to grow? And as entrepreneurs, I think that it's important to know we have so many hats to wear, but in marketing specifically, focus on 2 to 3 things, and that's it. So what are the 2 to 3 activities that are going to boost your business the most? In my opinion, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I need to work on SEO for my website. I'm like, right? Like that's, somebody told you that you need to do that. And yes, it is important, but in the list of a million priorities, I would prefer that you prepare yourself for SEO on TikTok and on other social medias, because they're a higher search algorithm than Google at this point. Like depending on who your audience is, people aren't Googling stuff for the answers anymore. They're going to TikTok and typing it into the search bar. And so it's like, if SEO is your play, what is the thing that's actually going to give you the most bang for your buck and is actually the need for prioritization? And focusing on 2 to 3 of those and getting really good at those is going to help you overall. And then you can go back to those lower priority things. So as entrepreneurs, it's like, yes, be a jack of all trades, but focus on 2 to 3 things, probably within each of those categories you have to be a jack of all trades in, to really push your business forward without feeling the overwhelm of, I've got 1,000,001 things to do to make this business work.
Yeah, because they're really, I mean, you said it multiple times, is we're wearing so many hats. There's so many things to do. We can't do everything, and we shouldn't try to do everything all up front.
Right.
Anyway, like there's some things that, yes, we want to do, but later. And I like what you said about the SEO thing. We just had someone on talk about SEO, and it's such a good thing to know how to do to just help rank better. But I think at the very beginning, like kind of like what you said, there's other activities where your time is better spent in. You said people are using TikTok and Instagram to find what the service or the expert they need, right?
Yeah.
That's so true, especially for me. Like I looked up a fitness photographer just in Utah, right? Because I want them local. I want them to know what they're doing, right? And I looked on Instagram. I didn't even think about looking on Google, right? And I don't know why. Usually that's where I would go. But I think when it's something like that, it's like, yeah, I'm looking on Instagram because I want to see their portfolio. I want to see if they're good at it. I want a lot of credibility on them, like up front, and social media gives you a lot of that.
Absolutely. So. And I think there's 2 components of that as well, depending on your business, right? If you're a brick and mortar, Google business is probably an important thing, right? And the SEO and the value of that, absolutely. But for 90% of all the other businesses that are happening in the world, Google and SEO is not a necessity. One time I had a colleague ask me for something about how to take care of a house plant.
Okay.
And I have a lot of houseplants, but I wasn't familiar with theirs. And so I went to Pinterest and I typed in how to care for whatever the plant was, Monstera, and found an article and was like, here you go. Here's how to take care of it. It's detailed. It's tells you everything you need to know. And they were like, I've never seen anybody find information without Googling it. I was like, well, Pinterest is a search engine, but also I think that we see Google now is but these corporations are taking over all of those spots for when you search for help. Mm-hmm. And so it's nearly impossible to find someone local. If you typed fitness photographer Utah, you might get some, but you still can't even see the essence of who they are or the vibe of their brand or get an impression on them because it's just straight search results. But you do that on something like TikTok, you see a video, you see them speaking, you see their clients, you see the behind the scenes, you see their process. You get so much more of a full picture and a real know, like, and trust engagement that you're not getting with a one-hit SEO and hoping that they come to your website.
Do you think websites are becoming, like, I think everyone still needs a website, but do you think they're coming a little more, like, irrelevant as social media gets bigger and bigger?
To this day, I get shocked when somebody's like, oh, I went to your website. And I'm like, oh, gosh, I haven't updated that in forever because nobody uses it, right? Mm. And I think it's becoming like the physical business card. Nice to have. You can give them to somebody. Usually they stay on your desk for 3 months and then you throw them away, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
But I have this. You can go check it out. And I think it's the same with the website now. It's not obsolete. It's a nice footprint, but it is not the core thing that is driving business in this day and age.
Yeah, totally agree. So you teach something called IMOVE.
Yes.
Which is intuition, marketing, operations, velocity, and execution.
Yes.
So let's start at the top, or give us a general overview of IMOVE. What's it for?
Yeah, so it's for business owners at any stage. Speaking of the jack of all tradesness, right? For a long time in my business and even in my career when I was in corporate, I often felt like I had to kind of pigeonhole myself in and be like, okay, well, I am the content expert. So I can help you get good at content. My tagline for some time was confidently create content that converts. Lots of alliteration and C's there, but loved it. And I loved doing it, but it really felt confining because I can help you get good at content, but then I'm like, let's talk about the operations of creating that content, of publishing that content, of repurposing that content. Now let's talk about the strategies that add velocity to that content. And then now we have all of these things in place. Let's actually execute with ease and step up as a leader in your business and for yourself. And so talking about one specific thing was very narrowing for me. And I just kind of felt like handcuffs a little bit. And so for years, I tried to navigate like, okay, how do I be an expert in this thing, but I'm also an expert in these things? And they all can help business owners. So what am I supposed to do? And I started to feel like I was pigeonholed and I couldn't really break out of that, which was totally my own mindset. Mm-hmm. Beginner entrepreneurs, as you're starting, any entrepreneur really, mindset is 80% of the game once you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So my mindset was I have to be an expert in one thing. I can't be knowledgeable and jack of all trades in all these things. And that wasn't until I discovered that I wanted to stand on, instead of a product and a singularity, I wanted to stand on a methodology, because a methodology is repeatable across multiple avenues. And so for me, my methodology became IMOVE, which is intuition, as you mentioned, marketing, operations, velocity, and execution. And the thought is that when you can tap into your intuition and take congruent and aligned action, then you can establish massive marketing, build operational support to handle all of that, all the incoming, then use strategies to build velocity to take it to the next level without burning out, and be able to execute and be the leader you need to be with ease. And so it was like, if you can apply that across any business, then it really starts to shift and grow and evolve, and it takes your business to the next levels. And so for me, it really was taking a look at what I'd done in my corporate career, the clients that I had worked with in my business career, my entrepreneurship, and seeing that without fail, even when I was honed in on one specific thing, it always came back to, well, let's tap into what's actually congruent and aligned for you. Now let's build marketing off of that. Now let's build operations to support that, provide strategies to give you the velocity, and execute with ease. And every time without fail, it's helped them achieve 10K consistent months. I've used that same methodology working with enterprise startups in tech, manufacturing, education, and media. And so now they started with nothing, and now they have multi-million-dollar valuations using the IMOVE method. And even when I was working in soloing and building my department in the corporate world for a client, which was Google, I used the IMOVE method to scale us from 0 employees to 30, from 1 service to 5, from 1 language to 5. And I spent 6 weeks living in Edinburgh, Scotland, setting up our EMEA international location and doing all of that in 3 years. And so I found that IMOVE, instead of trying to pigeonhole into one thing I was able to help people with, by creating a methodology and seeing and having the result of how it's helped businesses at all levels and entrepreneurs at all levels, took it to the next level for everybody I worked with.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said about without burnout. It
Yes.
helps people with that because we're wearing all the hats and we got to work like 24/7 just to get off the ground and to contact all the clients, do the marketing, service the clients, all that. So without burnout, I like that a lot. And it sounds like this is something that works for all businesses. It
really does.
It really doesn't matter what industry you're in. Like you can use this to scale your business.
100%. And I will say, like, the two things about the burnout is they're almost the bookends, right? So you have the intuition piece. Well, if you are doing things that are congruent to you, burnout is a far less likely outcome because it's aligned. Think about how many times you've had to do something that you didn't want to do. Were you exhausted afterward and before?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Like, I don't want to do this. I just don't. And you procrastinate and you beat yourself up and then you do it and the energy behind it is rough. And then afterward, you're like, oh my gosh, that was so exhausting. I hated that. And then you're like supposed to go on with the rest of the stuff you've got to do. That's what leads to burnout. So when you can take congruent and aligned action and be like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm excited about it, I have the energy behind it, then that's amazing. And then you can build strategies to continue to build in what you need as an entrepreneur so that you can prevent burnout in the future. And that's the velocity piece. So they almost bookend, because the V is not the E, right? But they almost bookend each other with like, you start to prevent burnout in a certain way and you end to prevent burnout in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I actually have a really good story about that if you want to hear.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I have a service called Quantum Power Days, which is where my clients come in and we spend 6 hours building and getting stuff done in their business. So it's not 6 hours of come and get coached and you leave with more homework than you came with. It's not that. It's like, here's all the things we need to accomplish today that have been on your to-do list forever. Let's get those done. So I had a client come in, and on her list of numerous things, we identified her brand, her pricing structure, her services, all these things. On the list was build a course. So we got through our things. We got to the point of building the course. But every time she talked about building the course, her body language would change. She'd go kind of concave and like, yeah, I should do a course and I need to do a course. And her voice would get softer and all those other pieces. And so when it got to it like, hey, let's build a course, which not a problem for me. Like we can build the course, we can build the modules, the outlines, everything you need, the resources, the landing pages, the marketing materials, the game plan, your video sales script, your funnel, like all of that. Been there, done that, we can do that. So it's not a matter of me being like, I don't want to do this. It was literally like, every time you talk about this, whole vibe changes. I'm like, so why do you want to do a course? Well, I just think that I should. It can bring in some residual income and it'd be a really good thing for my business. Okay, fair. But let me point out to you that you're going to have to put the same amount of energy and effort into this as you would marketing anything else. A course is not a build it and they will come. I'm sorry, it's not, right? And I've seen so many things talking about that. Build a course and you'll get money. Build a course and you'll get money. I'm like, you've got to advertise and market this course. Like, it's not a build it, they will come kind of thing. And so when she and I were talking about it, I said, look, you're going to have to put the same amount of energy into marketing this as you would anything else. Do you still want to do it? Or maybe we put it on the back burner. I'm not saying it's off the table, but like just put it towards the back and put a pin in it. And she goes, yeah, I'm not really excited about it. And I don't want to have to market it all the time and have that be the thing that I'm pushing for my business. I'm like, okay, well, what do you like to do? I really love to work one-on-one and in small group settings, and I feel really called to do retreats. Sweet, let's build that out for a second. Whole energy shifts. She gets excited. You can tell she's talking about it. She wants to talk about it. We build it out. We build out, okay, what would you charge? What was the rooms? Where would it be? When's the dates? What's the agenda? All of those pieces. Built in a $20,000 profitability if she sells 10 spots. 2 months later, she sells it out because she was excited to market it. She was excited to talk about it. It was something she was looking forward to in her business. And bonus, we're all in business for one reason or another, but one of those reasons is money, right? Yeah. $20,000 profitability is pretty sweet, right? That's enough to be like, okay, let's do this next round. Let's do this again. Let's do this again. And that excitement and that energy builds. And so that intuition piece is really about taking congruent action and throwing the shoulds out and being like, okay, what am I most excited to do that my audience needs, that my clients need? And for her, that was building a retreat, and it's worked out. And I'm sure it could have worked out if we built the course too, but courses are a dime a dozen as well. So you would have to do the extra marketing, and the pricing and the margins and everything else isn't near as good as 3 days, massive retreat, incredible connection and transformation for your clients who want to come to the next retreat as well. So now you've got the built-in model of people coming back, right? The boomerang, which you don't really get for a course. So it's like finding the things that work for you in your business that's congruent to you and paying attention to the energy around it, the language around it, the shoulds, because if you want to prevent burnout, it starts at the beginning and going, am I doing this because I think I should, because somebody told me I should build a course, or because I actually want to and I'm excited to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is, that I think is huge. Like I definitely feel like I should start a little like clothing brand for this, for the podcast, or just even if it's just hats or mugs that just says Utah Hustlers on it. Or I feel like I should be going live. I feel like I should be doing, all these different things. And do I want to do those? Yes. But what do I want to do most right now? Because that's what I'm going to put the most energy into, and which will ultimately probably grow the fastest.
Yield the better results.
Because I feel better about it. Yeah, that's like that's what my intuition's telling me.
Yeah.
So for intuition, do you feel like because we've talked about all the parts of iMOVE a little bit.
Yeah. Do
you feel like we should go over intuition a little bit more, or how do you feel?
Sure, we can do that. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's just do like a few minutes on intuition, and then we'll go down the rest of them.
Absolutely. So intuition is different for every person, right? And so for me, my intuition comes from a sense of adventure, as weird as that sounds. But I know that if an opportunity comes my way, that if I feel a sense of adventure, like let's put on the backpack that's got the water, got the snacks, the trail mix, all that stuff, the extra pair of shoes, all my dog's gear, right? Let's put that backpack on and hike up the mountain, and I'm all about it. That to me is, I know that's my intuition telling me like this is an aligned thing to do. If I don't have that, but it usually is like this is a really good opportunity, you should do that.
Yeah.
You should. But I'm like, oh gosh, I got to put on the backpack and hike up the hill, and it's going to take me forever and I don't want to. Then I know it's not aligned. So every person has their thing that intuition can help, like intuition is to them. And if I can, I'd love to share a story that that outlines this in, I think, the best of ways, in the easiest way. So every morning I go and I pace on my patio. Mm-hmm. It's from crossover from 75 Hard. I completed the whole year program, and the outdoor workout, I was like, I'll just walk back and forth on my patio. Just get
which
it done.
Is very impressive. Live Hard is not an easy program to do. So hats off to you.
Thank you. The hardest part is that I finished in 2020. Uh-huh. So I started in 2019. Full year was mid 2020. And in the last phase, you have to talk to a stranger every day. Mid COVID. So,
oh, wow. Yeah. So that just makes that's another level of difficulty.
That was the hardest part. So I did a workaround where I put on Facebook and I said, hey, I'm doing a 30-day challenge, because the last phase is 30 days. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm doing a 30-day challenge. I need to talk to a stranger every day. I'm positive I don't know everybody I'm friends with on Facebook in an intimate way. Like, we're all practically strangers. Would you mind scheduling an appointment with me where I can talk to you for 15 minutes, whether on the phone or over Zoom? And I got 30 days worth of appointments scheduled. Knocked it out. And I was like, okay, I'm counting it.
I love that. That's genius.
But that was my workaround. But so crossover from those days is I'm just out pacing on my patio. And while I was pacing, I had the thought, I can be an 8-figure entrepreneur. And I'm not mathy. So I was like, 8 figures, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, okay, $10 million minimum. And my first thought was, how? So I started doing the breakdown. Okay, my current products at this current pricing, I would have to sell this many at this much profitability. Like my brain starts going into all of I say I'm not mathy, but I am systems. And so I'm like, oh, okay, here's the system to figure out how I could do that. And then I was like overwhelmed because it's a lot, right? $10 million. And I'm
totally.
like, okay, based on my products, I have to sell 500,000 of these. How do I do that with my current audience and like all these things? And then I had the thought, no, just roll with it. Okay, that's intuition. Intuition is the hit where I'm just pacing, not even thinking about this. And all of a sudden, boom, 8-figure entrepreneur. Then just go with it. So I did a series of things. I did some declarations, some affirmations. All of this kind of falls in the intuitive and energy space, but very much just like, we'll see where this goes. I have no expectation, but I'm going to ride this like maybe I could be an 8-figure entrepreneur train. Mm-hmm. So fast forward 2 weeks, and I get invited to a conference. I do not want to go to this conference. Bless the person listening that hosts this conference. But it was the end of the week. It was on a Saturday morning. I live in Saratoga Springs, Utah. This was up at Weber State in Ogden. I had to get up early, had to get ready, all of those things. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to go. But I'm like, I had the thought, don't be lazy, just go. All right. So I go to this conference and it's fine. But then I meet one person and she's like, how come I don't know you? I'm like, I don't know. How come you don't know me, right? Everyone knows me. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
And she's like, well, we need to connect. And I've never heard of her before, never met her before. Okay, fine. So that Monday, she messages me and says, hey, where do you live? I want you to come to my house and come chat with me. Now, she owns a network. And so like a multimedia network. And that's actually one of the enterprise startups that now I've helped support. Okay. Spoiler alert. Anyways, so she's like, hey, I want you to come chat with me. Okay, great. And I'm thinking she wants me to be on her network because it's television and I do public speaking and I've spoken all over the world and all these things. So I'm like, I'm a great candidate. Cool. She's going to try to sell me into this program. But whatever. So I go. And she asks about my experience. She asks about this, this, and this. And then she goes, okay, I need you to be a member of my executive team. Okay.
How about that?
What openings do you have? Right? Like, what does this even look like? And so we determined she has an opening for chief operations officer. That fits my skill sets and my ability to help grow and all of these pieces. And so I said, yeah, okay. And so we negotiated it for a salary and for 1% sweat equity ownership in the company. After I signed the contract, again, this is like within the week, right? After I signed the contract, I get notification that we're working with a M&A, mergers and acquisitions broker, to sell the company in like 5 years. Mergers and acquisitions brokers like, look, I've done all the numbers. I've looked at it based on the industry standards, where things are going in the future, what you guys have happening. I think I can sell it for $1 billion or more. So unicorn sell. And I'm like, that's awesome. Then I go home and I'm like, what's 1% of $1 billion? Because I have 1% ownership. It's 10 million, which is exactly 8 figures. So like in a 2-week time frame, it went from an intuition of I could be an 8-figure entrepreneur to an opportunity dropping in my lap that was exactly that, and I didn't even know it. And the reason I could say yes to signing that contract before even knowing like, oh, this is exactly what I've been thinking about, was I was like, I'm ready to put on the backpack, right? This is exciting. I can be engaged with this. I could love this. And this is where I want to spend my time and my energy to help support this company and grow. And I get to be an owner in it. And I get to help change the world. And it supports women all over the place. Like, this is amazing. Backpack on, let's go. And so my intuition led me through all of that to take congruent action to be a part of this company, right? Which is now valued at $10 million from the work that I was able to help contribute to. And I'm an owner in it, and we're looking to sell in 3 to 5 years for $1 billion. Well, I'll get the payout of that 8-figure business opportunity. But without the intuition, I would have stopped at the first day where I'm like, and how do I do this? I don't.
Yeah.
Right? And should I go to that conference? No, I'm not going to. Should I go meet up at this stranger's house? Probably not. Right? And so like there's all these things where intuition led along the way to create an opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And to create an aligned opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And as business owners, I think there's such a need to be able to tap into what makes sense for you versus all of the noise. There's so much noise and analysis paralysis of do this, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. You're a failure if you don't do it this way. Like there's so much, and in marketing, right? Assuredness and confidence sells. And so like that's important, but it comes across so like if you're coming into it new, there's so many things you have to do this way that it's overwhelming. And it's like, if you can just tap into your intuition and take action from that, naturally the success and the aligned actions and the aligned marketing and the operations and the velocity and the execution, they're all going to happen because you're taking action that's congruent for you. So like your example of there's a million and one things that you want to do, but your intuition's like focus on these 2 or 3. And that's kind of what I said at the beginning, like focus on 2 or 3 core things that it's going to get you to those next levels. Because if you're trying to do all of it at once, it feels nearly impossible. And you're so far out of alignment and you're not listening to your intuition that you're dead in the water.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the intuition, it's really we need to listen to ourselves, trust ourselves. And it sounds like when you do that, we attract what we want.
Yeah.
Like, do you believe in the law of attraction?
I do.
Like, it seems like you kind of like manifested that when you're like, I'm 8-figure entrepreneur. And then 2 weeks later, opportunity came up where that was a thing.
Yeah.
That when you're walking on the porch and you thought, I want to be an 8-figure entrepreneur, did you just let that thought go away, or did you put on a vision board? Did you put it on the wall? Did you keep thinking about it? What did you do with that thought?
Yeah. So actually, I love this too, because I would apply this as part of intuition, which is knowing your templates. So my template in the world is I do really well auditorily. So vision boards are great. I have one. I like it. But it works best for me if I'm speaking it out loud. So after I decided, okay, we're going to throw the how away and take away all those expectations, forego those expectations, and just focus on I'm an 8-figure entrepreneur, I created a custom declaration, and I said that to myself every day for 2 weeks as I was pacing. And it's 45 minutes a day. Yeah. So for 45 minutes a day, over and over and over, I would say to myself, I am Taylor Proctor. I'm an intuitive business strategist and 8-figure entrepreneur.
Was that hard to say at first?
Yeah, because you're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, not there yet. But it really, like, for me, it's how do you get it into the auditory systems, because that's my template, where I am hearing myself say it over and over and over again, and eventually it happens. Mm-hmm. And I've had this happen time and time again. Like, once I decide that this is where I want to go, and the biggest part of it is who I want to be. So I'm going to say this too. I don't work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are in this space, but I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs in this space. So there's the difference there. Part of my ideal client is you're not in that space anymore. But a lot of entrepreneurs, they start out, but they don't really believe that they're entrepreneurs. They don't see themselves as business owners. It's kind of a fun hobby that we're investing a lot of time, effort, energy, and money into. Not great. So like you have to adopt that identity. I'm a successful entrepreneur. You tell yourself that every single day, guess what's going to end up happening? You're going to become a successful entrepreneur. And so there's those components of it. And that's what I did, is I was like, I'm going to say this to myself. I did a couple of other things. I have an email series. If anybody wants it, it's completely free. 8-part video email series where I share the 8 crazy things that I did to manifest this opportunity. And they are crazy. But one of them is talking to myself for 45 minutes saying I'm an 8-figure intuitive business strategist, or I'm an intuitive business strategist and 8-figure entrepreneur.
So I want to point out that it was an I am statement, not yes. I want to be, not I'm going to be, not one day. It was I am already this.
Yes. Super important to have the present tense.
Present, talk in the present. So what about people that don't trust themselves, have failed from time to time, so their confidence is broken, and they have a hard time with that intuition? What would you say to them?
So I would push back and say this. Those times when you failed, did you have something come up where you were like, I shouldn't do this, and you ignored it anyways? And I would bet money that every single time that there's been a failure that feels catastrophic and like has tarnished their confidence, right before they made that decision, there was the thought that entered their mind, maybe I shouldn't do this. And then they went, no, I need to, or I should, or people are counting on me, or whatever it is. And they moved forward with it. And so I would say, hey, your intuition knew. You knew, and you decided not to trust it. So instead of not trusting yourself now, go back to that and be like, wow, okay, I do know what I'm doing. I took a misstep or a quote unquote wrong turn. I don't believe in right or wrong, right?
Yeah, me neither.
There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just doing it in the way that's congruent for you. And so you took a misstep, but your intuition knew. So come back to that and just start to trust that voice that comes in, or that gut feeling that comes in, or that sense of adventure, or whatever it looks like for you. But start to trust that. And like I said, 10 times out of 10, I guarantee that they had like, oh, I shouldn't do this. And then they ignored it.
Yeah. Well, that completely resonates with me. Like I can think of I could give you so many examples of times where I thought I shouldn't do something, but was told to do something, or felt pressure, or just like that that should, and thought I shouldn't do it, and went forward with it anyway, thinking, oh, well, this is what everyone else is doing, but and then crash and burn.
Yeah.
So I think that will resonate with a lot of people.
My first marriage was that way.
Yeah. Mine too.
I drove myself to the wedding and I cried the whole way and was like, do not do this. Do not do this. I had friends and family who were like, you obviously don't want to do this. Why are you doing this? And I was like, it's already paid for. Invitation's already sent. Everyone's going to be there. I should do it. And it crashed and burned. Mm-hmm. It was like, I made a decision that my higher self knew wasn't the right choice and was telling me, and I ignored it. So it's like, when you don't trust yourself, go back to those times where you're like, actually, I'm really smart. I just didn't listen. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to listen.
Yep.
And you'll regain that confidence.
And just don't listen to what other people say that you should do, because you know what you should do. Not everyone else. People are going to give you the best advice that they would want based off of what their life is like and where they want to go in life. So you can listen to people's advice, but ultimately we need to make the decision for ourselves.
Totally.
And I think we know when we're doing things for other people and not because it's authentically what we want.
Mm-hmm. I had this come up the other day. Actually, within the last 7 days, I've had 3 of my clients that I'm working with in a one-on-one setting say to me, I was really nervous about hiring a business coach because I've hired a business coach in the past, and one said she spent $1,000 with a business coach and it didn't take her anywhere. Another one spent $6,000, and another one told me she spent $15,000. And I'm like, oh, gut check, right? Because they didn't get anything out of it, which is why like my quantum power days and stuff are like, we get things done. You leave with tangible, crunchy stuff you can do and is already prepared and ready to go. Mm-hmm. That said, that's not the point of this. The point is that one of the things that all 3 of those people have said was they just had a coach that told them, do this and you'll be successful. One of them was sold on, I'll help you get to $30,000 months. She didn't have the audience in place. She didn't have the systems in place. She didn't have any of the things that she needed to achieve 30,000 months consistently. But this coach said, well, you just do what I tell you and you'll get it. That's not going to work for so many people, but they think that they should go do it and that's what we should be going for. And so they do, and they get burned. So all 3 of these clients have said similar stories to me. And they're like, but this feels so different, because anytime I suggest something, I'm like, okay, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. I want you to tap in on a scale of 1 to 10. How does this feel? Feels like a 6. Cool, chuck it. What are some other ideas of things that we could do? That feels like a 10. Awesome. Because if it feels like a 10, you can move forward with it without burning out. You can be excited about it instead of being like, well, my coach told me to do this and so I should do it. No, that's crap. Don't do that. And so the intuition piece feeding into all the other stuff that we've discussed today really comes down to like, even if it's before you make a choice, ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how does this feel? 1 being like, wah, wah, this feels like crap, right? Yeah. And 10 being like, I could do this. I'm on fire right now. Like, I'm so excited I could do this. And if it's anything lower than a 7, chuck it. And if it's 7, 8, or 9, ask yourself, what's holding me back from experiencing this as a 10? Because when you can do that, let's say that it's host a podcast, right? You feel really called to it. You're excited about it. You know it can help support and facilitate your business, your brand awareness. You're making connections with ideal clients, all of those pieces. And it comes in at a 7. You're like, okay, what about this is keeping it from being a 10? Well, I'm actually really afraid of how I'm going to show up on camera or speak into a microphone. Awesome. So we clear those beliefs. We make sure that you feel confident and equipped, charismatic on camera. You're able to speak with confidence. Now where is it? Oh, that's a 10, baby. Cool, let's go. So if it's a 7 or if it's below a 7, chuck it. It's not worth your time. And it's not aligned action. And it's just I think I should do this. But if it's a 7, 8, or 9, ask yourself what's holding you back, and you'll uncover beliefs that are keeping you stuck. You clear those beliefs, you set yourself up for success, and then it hits a 10, and you are off to the races.
Yeah, we have a lot of the answers inside ourselves. We just need to ask ourselves the question.
Yeah.
And then use that intuition to listen. and I think we a lot of times know what we need to do.
Totally.
And it's just doing it. But I like the question where it's like having the scale of how I feel about this, because then we can gauge like how important this is to us, how passionate we are about it.
It's a tactical thing, right? Because we've all heard somebody say, oh, just trust your intuition. Okay, well, if I don't trust my intuition or I don't know what my intuition looks like, that feels impossible, and it feels I'm placating you. Like just trust your intuition. You got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go now. No, it's not like that. But if you can do a 1 to 10 scale, you actually have something that feels measurable. You have something that you can base off of and then ask the continuing questions, which I think is the difference.
Yeah, because questions give us information. Information helps us make decisions. And so the more questions we can ask ourselves, the more information we'll get out of our intuition, and we're going to ultimately make phenomenal decisions, it sounds like, for ourselves, our business, life, all of it.
All of it.
Okay, so we spent a lot of time on intuition, which I know is the biggest one, so I'm glad we did. So let's go over the marketing, operations, velocity,
execution.
Yep. So marketing. Let's talk about that.
Oh, marketing, the biggest thing in business. So I think that's for a lot of people. Like, you go into business and your first thought is, okay, how am I going to market this? Or I've got to get good at marketing. I don't know how to do this. And so when we have that intuition first, and then we can say, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and know it's a testing game, then we can take marketing action with ease. And I'm going to say the number one thing that holds people back in marketing is not the inexperience of knowing how to do it, which everyone will tell you it is. I don't know how to be good at marketing. I don't know how to do social media. I don't know how to create content. The number one thing that is the real truth, not the I can learn that, is that they believe that they have to they're afraid to show up and be seen.
Yeah.
Right?
Because so much of marketing is putting your face out there and talking on camera and a microphone.
Yep.
And people feel really self-conscious about it because they know the whole world is going to be able to see them.
Yeah. And so when we can focus on, instead of, I need to be everywhere all at once and have all the people see me, it's like, cool, let's focus on 1 or 2 or 3 specific things that you can do that are going to speak to your ideal audience and give you the biggest bang for your buck. Focus on the marketing efforts there. So, for example, in my own business, I've actually broken out marketing and outreach. And I had this epiphany today, actually.
Oh, good.
So, and I'm like, wow, 15 years in marketing and operations and leadership and strategy, and I've never realized the difference until today. But there's outreach and there's marketing. And a lot of us put those together. Well, when you put marketing before outreach, which we'll get into in a second, but when you put marketing before outreach, it becomes I hope my ideal client finds me.
Yeah.
I'm using hashtags. Please, let's do this, right? And my content is valuable. I'm speaking to my ideal client. I hope they find me. Please, algorithm gods.
Yeah.
Right? And you're playing for the algorithm and all this other stuff and thinking that that's marketing. Now, when you do that first, which 99% of people do, what happens is you're praying to the gods, and then marketing's not working, and then you're like, I hate marketing. Can I just hire somebody out for it? Right? Which is acceptable, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing for them. They just might know how to game the algorithm a little bit better than you. Mm-hmm. And algorithms change. And unless that person specifically works at that social media agency or platform, they don't know the algorithm. It's best guesses. And those best guesses change frequently. Mm-hmm. So you're still playing the game and you're like hoping, crossing your fingers that the marketing works. Outreach is different. How can you connect one-on-one with your ideal client and build a rapport with them so that your marketing can then be seen by them because we're in each other's circles, we're following each other, whatever it may be. Then they see your marketing and your marketing is speaking to them. You're building your know, like, and trust factor. And that repeated exposure through the marketing hits that, I believe it used to be 5 to 7, then it's 7 to 9, then it was 9 to 11. And now we've jumped up to, it takes a person around 21 times of seeing you before they're even ready to purchase because that's what they need to be able to see you, remember you, and have the know, like, and trust factor for you.
So it's no longer 7.
Oh, we're way past that.
You know, I heard it was 7 hours that they have to spend, whether it's on social media, on a podcast, or whatever. Like, they have to like consume 7 hours of you before they're gonna offer you their money.
Interesting. I haven't heard that because that's like if you imagine that in micro moments, like seeing a selfie on social media, that's 2 seconds. So that's a lot of touch points without something like an outreach technique like a podcast.
Mm-hmm. And I think it all depends on how much does the person need what you offer,
Totally.
How much do they resonate with you as a person, do your values align? So I think it's such a kind of generalized number where it really depends on who is consuming your content.
Totally. But what's interesting about that is if you look at that from the marketing first lens, that feels way harder than if you have the marketing supporting the outreach lens.
Yeah.
Right? Because the outreach is, let me make a connection with you. And then you see the stuff that I'm posting and you're like, yeah, that resonates. Yeah, I know who she is. I like her. I want to see what it's like to work with her. Let's schedule a time to talk and see if we're a good fit. Mm-hmm. Right? And then that's a sales call and you can then practice getting good at sales.
Right.
But the outreach versus marketing is such a big difference. So like in my business, I have 3 outreach techniques. I'm working on one of them right now. So we'll be launching in 2024 of cold email outreach, right? Being able to do that at scale, but in that offering what is my second thing, which is to join my Facebook group and be interviewed on my podcast and live in the group of other business owners on how you got good at business and sharing your story. My ideal client wants to share their story. They want to have the visibility. They want to have another thing that points people in their direction for their business. So now I'm offering something of value and getting to connect with them one-on-one because we're going to do an interview. And then the third is I have my podcast, which is me as a solo episodes, and people come and listen to that, and it's an intimate relationship because I'm in their ears, and I'm speaking to them directly. And then all of that kind of funnels into now you're following me on social media or you're in my email list or whatever it is, and I'm connecting and providing value there and building that know, like, and trust factor. So that's where the marketing supports the audience that you're growing and building. Because without the outreach first, your marketing is that hope and pray model, and in some cases, pay and pray model, depending if you've paid for ads or working with somebody or whatever it is. And there's no system of actually bringing clients to you.
Yeah.
And you have to have that outreach system first to then support the marketing. And like I said, I had that realization literally today. I was like, oh, everybody kind of bundles those together. But one of the biggest gaps, especially for entrepreneurs who are in their first, I would say 1 to 5 years, is we're not thinking, how do we bring in the most people and then support them with our content? We're thinking, how can our content bring in the most people, which is literally praying to the algorithm gods and hoping for the best. So it's like, how do you connect with those people that are your ideal audience first and then use your marketing to support that relationship?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've never made that distinction between, like, 1, there's marketing, but 2, then there's the outreach. And for me personally, especially like I've recently started advertising people to come use this podcast studio, coaching how to start a podcast, what equipment to use, because I've spent so much, I can't tell you, time and money on that stuff. But the outreach is what has gotten people to work with me.
Yeah.
It hasn't been the social media posts.
Exactly.
Which that just supports it. You're so right. I love this.
Yeah. And so it's like when we look at the M in IMOVE, it's making those kind of distinctions, but it's also taking and looking at the marketing actions that make the most sense for you. If you are the type of person, like I mentioned, my one client's like, I hate social media. I'm like, we can create entire marketing plans and entire business revenue models based on you going to 1 networking event a week. You're going to have to get really good at networking, really good at talking about people, really good at knowing what you offer, your message, and your ideal client. But that's all stuff you'd have to do if you're doing it on social media anyways. But if you don't like social media, you don't have to do it.
Oh my gosh, you just blew my mind again.
We don't need to do it if we have, there's so many other avenues. There's a million ways to make $1 million. So finding the marketing that resonates for you that you can be excited about and keep on moving through.
There's a million ways to make $1 million. Oh my gosh, Kay, this is phenomenal. I want to stay on this more, but I want to get through the whole iMOVE before the episode's over. Operations.
Operations, baby.
So let's do a quick 5 minute of operations.
Operations. So this one's secretly my favorite.
Okay.
Because intuition is so personalized and I love it. And I love being able to help my clients step into their intuition and then take aligned action. And then I love brainstorming on the marketing and helping set them up for success and have the visibility and awareness. But operations is where it actually becomes a real business. Because how many people do you know that are out marketing, putting stuff on social media and making no money?
Most of them.
Yeah, exactly. The operations is, they all build on each other, of course, but the operations is what makes it a business. The operations is taking a look at something you're doing and saying, okay, how can I make this easier? And I'm going to write it all down so that when I'm ready, I can hire a VA and hand it to them. If you're already thinking in an operations mindset, you're already preparing yourself to make money, to hire a team, and to scale with automatically. Now, I'm not saying every business owner needs to spend all their time in operations. That is why it's third, right? We've got to take aligned action. We've got to get our marketing and actually connect with the client. But then when you have so many clients coming in, operations is the way that supports the systems to continue to support the business and not be like, I have 500 clients and I don't know what to do, right? Operations helps you through that. So that's why it's my favorite. And I love, which is counterintuitive because a lot of people are like, this is the worst thing ever. I love building standard operating procedures. It was really funny. So for 3 years of my business, I ran a online paid book club.
Okay.
Loved it. It was great. We actually just wrapped it up April of this year just because it didn't resonate anymore. Intuition was saying, hey, it's time to call it on this. 3 years, we were always super strong, good money coming in, reoccurring stream, great model. And it's a book club and you're learning and growing together and connection and all of that. But it was just no, it's time to move to something else. But before that, I had just kept everything in my head. So about 1.5 years in, keep in mind it was a 3-year long project. So 1.5 years in, I was like, I think I could hire somebody to help me with this. And I was like, I need to build it all out. So I built out an SOP of all the things that I did and the dates. So it was
What's SOP?
A standard operating procedure.
Okay.
Great question.
Thanks.
Sorry. I have a tendency to go into acronyms.
No, you're good.
So standard operating procedure. So I build this out and it's like, okay, on the 25th, we launch our book voting for the month. And then on the 5th or on the 1st, it's finalized. And on the 5th, we actually start. And then I have monthly things that I'm doing. I have this, this, and this. I've listed out all of these things. I'm going to do it on the 25th, we start our voting. On the 1st, we finalize the book that we are. On the 5th, it gets sent out to everybody. And on the 5th, we start reading. And then weekly, I'm either going live in the group or I'm asking questions and people are sharing with their experiences as they're learning from the book. And at the end, we have a Zoom call and everybody joins. And so it's talking about application throughout the month and then actually having a longer, bigger discussion. So I'm writing out my standard operating procedure that I have all these things in my head so that I can hire somebody to take over all of it with the exception of my insights taking away from the book. It ended up being 30 individual tasks that I had been keeping in my head.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, okay, it's the 5th. I've got to hurry and do this. Or I had a calendar reminder. It's the 5th. Post this in the group saying this. And the automation didn't work in the Facebook groups back then. That's fairly new, being able to schedule in those. And so I didn't have that. Plus, if it was a new book and all those other pieces and we were voting, that I couldn't have that automated. So I had all of these extra thoughts and tasks, 30 of them, sitting in my brain. And then I wrote them out because I was going to hire somebody. And I was like, holy smokes. That was a lot to have all just floating around in my head. And then I hired a VA. They started doing it. It was great. And then I decided that VA wasn't a good fit. So I brought it back on. And it was crazy because I was like, I don't have to think about it anymore. My mental and emotional and energetic bandwidth for me to be present in my business wasn't being taken up by 30 ticky-tacky tasks. I could just pull out this SOP and be like, cool, this is what I'm doing today. This is what I need to do today. This is this. This is this. And it freed up so much more creative bandwidth in my business by having a standard operating procedure for one component of what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So operations is secretly my favorite because it's the thing that frees up you to be able to grow at even bigger and better levels because it allows you to scale, it allows you to see where you're being inefficient, it allows you to see the systems that you need to put in place to be able to grow. And if we're talking the outreach before the marketing, right? Operations are the systems of how you're going to reach out to those people, what that process looks like, the touch points. The marketing operations is, okay, I'm scheduling this, I'm doing a batching day here, I'm editing here, or I'm sending it to people to do that for me, whatever that looks like. But the operations, if you have that documented, it's a huge relief. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have so many moving parts that wouldn't it just be so easy to take a piece of paper and be like, hey, I'm working on this today. Check, 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 check. Like you have one for the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, well, and I have one for after. Like for the whole editing and production part of this podcast, like I have a whole checklist that goes down exactly what I need to do from the beginning. So once this is over, I start the checklist. Okay, put the files on the computer, then edit them, add the intro and outro, just the entire thing up until I'm not posting about this podcast anymore.
Yeah.
And it takes up like this, it frees up so much space in my mind.
Yep, absolutely. Just follow the checklist. And so operations is my favorite for exactly that reason. Because we're taking the aligned action, we're listening to our intuition, we're building out our outreach and our marketing strategies to be able to grow the business, connect to a new audience, and get sales. Operations frees you up to continue to think innovatively for how to grow your business in whatever area it is, right? We haven't even talked about like finance and projections and financial tracking and QuickBooks and all those other things. But now you can be like, cool, this is in a great spot. I have a strong system. I just pull this piece of paper up or I give it to my VA or my team member and they work on it or I work on it. And now I've got 2 extra hours that I didn't have before because I was trying to remember all of this stuff and getting pulled to emails and client meetings and whatnot. Now I have 2 extra hours. Now I have the bandwidth to actually focus on, maybe I should track my daily finances.
Yeah.
Maybe I should read Profit First. Great book to read, by the way. Read Profit First and then implement that in my business. The operations part frees up so that you can then move into the velocity part and set up strategies to continue to grow the business.
Beautiful. Well, let's dive right into that. We're leading right into it. Velocity.
So velocity is the strategies to help you grow the business. And that's the part we've discussed without the burnout as well. So it's looking at, okay, what's working, what's not. Our operations are in place. Now, what are the next level things that we can do? Notice I said can instead of should. Right? These are the next level things that we could or can do. Do we want to do them? How does that work? And you'll start to find that the next level strategies are, I've done all this outreach. I have people on my podcast. What's my follow-up system? How can I maintain those connections with them beyond, hey, here's the promo, here's your cover photo, please share this, here's the links, thanks, bye. How do you take it to those next levels? And that's looking at, okay, well, maybe the next strategy is, I'm totally giving away my full strategy here, by the way. The next strategy is hosting events and asking those people who are on your podcast to come and speak from stage or virtual stage and come and speak to your audience. And they're bringing in their audience. And now it's more collaborative. And you've had another touch point where they've had a great experience with you and you've given them value. Then it's like, hey, I would love to work with you. Some of the times that we've chatted, you've said you're struggling a little bit with your marketing stuff. I offer some help with that, specifically with the IMOVE method. I would love to see what it could look like to work together and if I'm a good fit for you. Yeah, Taylor, I love you. We've worked together on 3 or 4 things. You've always been great. I'd love to see what else we could do. Cool. Let's set up a call, right? That's the next level strategies besides like, hey, now I'm reaching out to people and we have this. What's those next components to continue that relationship, to continue to grow? And so that's like the type of stuff that comes out of focusing on the strategies that give you the velocity to your business. It's those next level components that you can't think about unless you have the first 3 already in place.
Yeah, that's something I think I'm going to apply immediately. So what I'm thinking is with this to maintain those relationships, because that's like the biggest part of business. Like most people buy from friends, people they know, like, 100%. And trust, right? People they feel comfortable around. And yeah, I think that's something I need to apply to the podcast is, you know, once this is done, I need to maintain those relationships because it's not just posting, but like doing maybe like an Instagram live with them or something while the episode's fresh and new and you know, relevant, like in front of everyone's eyes. But Yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that, but
Well, there's also additional strategies too. Like that's like your outreach, continuation, relationship strategy. But then it's like, okay, what's the strategy of it gives you the opportunity to look back. So I've been spending 5 hours a day doing outreach. What am I yielding for that?
mm-hmm.
This is the part where you go back and you analyze. You look at your analytics and you see what's actually working. And if it's like, hey, I'm spending 5 hours a day, but really the first hour is where everything clicks, I'm just gonna spend an hour a day. Everything clicks in that first hour anyways, give myself 4 hours back, and now I'm not burnt out doing something either, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like finding those moments and building those strategies in, and that's the part where you can really analyze and think through it, which then leads us to, after you've analyzed, thought through it, and you've optimized, you're able to execute with ease. And it's the combination of all of those that allows you to become the leader you need to be for yourself and for your business, and be able to execute on everything that you've built with the trust and the knowledge that it's going to work, which makes it easy.
Yeah, totally. Well, and execution, that's the last one. I want to go right into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Allows you to execute with ease and be that leader. And I think that when we're looking at execution strategies, it really comes down to all of it builds on each other so well, because I would ask, if you're having trouble executing on something, do that 1 to 10 scale. Like how excited am I for this? How aligned is this on a scale of 1 to 10? It's a 6. Okay, chuck it. It's a 3. Definitely chuck it, right? Yeah. Come back to the drawing board. If it's a 7, 8, or 9, ask yourself, okay, what is this about? What about this is keeping me from a 10? Well, it just feels so draining to reach out to people and say, hey, come be on my podcast. Okay. Well, how can we now we go back to the velocity. How can we set ourselves up to be able to do this and set our strategies in a place where we can execute it with ease?
So is iMOVE kind of like a little bit of a loop?
Yeah.
Where we kind of just like go over it again and again and again. Once we've mastered it, once we've, have the intuition, we do the marketing for it, we figure out the operations, how to, the velocity scale it, execute on it, and then we do that for the next thing.
100%.
Because then it feels like that part's mastered, that part of our business is mastered, and now we can continue to grow it because, well, that thing's almost taking care of itself, and it's so easy, it takes so little bandwidth.
100%. And business is never finished.
Yeah.
Never finished. The strategies that worked in 2019 do not work now in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's always changing.
It's always changing. It's always evolving. It's all of these pieces. And so you have to continue to tap into your intuition, take massive marketing movement, build out your operational processes to support velocity building strategies to be able to execute with ease and move to the next thing. 100%. It is a cycle. And I mean, I call it a methodology because you can apply it to any level that you're at in business. Any type of leader, entrepreneur, business owner can apply it. And it really doesn't matter your industries or where you're at because it works across the board.
Yeah. So we just gave people a whole framework. This was beautiful. Is there any last advice you want to give the Utah entrepreneurs out here?
I would say really my big thing is, and I've said it several times, like, I want to help you get good at business. And I've met so many entrepreneurs that are like, I just need to get good at business so I can get back into the coaching, or I can get back into the product innovation, or I can get back into the marketing, or whatever it is that they love to do about their business and whatever it is they got into business for in the first place. And so the thing that I would say and want to leave people with is that it is completely possible, right? It's just, you've got to keep going. You've got to keep trying. Apply the methodologies as they align to you, as they work for you. Use your intuition, use the IMOVE method, and take it to those next levels.
Beautiful. Okay, so if people want to get in contact with you, learn more about you, consume more of Taylor, where do they go?
Sure. So if you're listening to this podcast, you like podcasts. So I have a podcast called Get Good at Business. We have over 500 episodes. So a great resource to check out. You can also find that and any other information about me at getgoodatbusiness.com. All of my social handles are either Taylor Proctor or Get Good at Business. So if you search my name or Get Good at Business on your social media or podcast platform of choice, you should be able to find me and reach out.
Perfect. Well, Taylor, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.